Remorseless Winter. Fairytales Forever, Book 4, written by Andboo. Narrated by Hazelton. Part 1. Let It Snow. Chapter 1. Blistering Cold. Ever since the snow had come to extinguish the fire of the forest thousands of years ago, a dead winter had yet to leave the town. A frostbitten shell of its former self, the town had little promise left. As the population thinned through the years, the people found themselves divided by tribalism. Two major tribes warred over the town. The biggest tribe, the roamers, shelter within the stone halls they had forged from the rubble of the old homes and structures of the fallen town, survived by hunting and gathering in the surrounding woods. Inside the walls they had now erected to separate themselves from the roamers lived a tribe called the Royal. A God-fearing people, they had found themselves blessed with technological advances in architecture and agriculture. They built major farming centers to grow vegetables and purify water. Inside their beautiful city they called Loradi, the Royal tribe thrived. The working class served crafts and trades for their society, and the poorest of them joined the ranks of the army. Chapter 2. Snow Blind. While the Lodari people flourished, the roamers struggled through the harsh weather, stricken by the plagues of disease and famine, and they blamed the Royals. Despite this, the loving people of the Royal tribe strived to help them, even at the risk of being exiled by their king. The homes of the Lodari people whispered of conspiracy. Some of them worked for the ruling family and often burrowed back tales of screams of horror coming from chambers deep within the castle. While deathly screams echoed from the halls of the Lodari castle, the Roamer tribe had a dark secret of their own. An evil voice whispered in the ear of the Roamer people, drawing them deep into the forest of dead trees. Those who followed the whispers found shelter under the guise of a dark spirit, who promised them immortality, rebirthing them in undeath. Though they could not bleed on their own, these forsaken people now religiously hunted and sacrificed other roamers to their new god. Chapter 3. Cursed Brothers. Joshua awoke to the evil whisper chirping through his ears. James, he thought, looking around for his brother as he sat up. Strange, he thought. His brother had been gone for weeks now, though it wasn't rare for him to be away at the castle for many days. He did grow concerned. He lit the torch in the main hall as he rumbled through their house to find a lantern. The strange rambling of the whispers still washed around him, but a singular word haunted him. Chosen. James! Joshua called as he stumbled outside, following the whisper into the night. Part 2. Let Them Eat Cake. Chapter 4. Monsters and Men. As the whispers led Joshua out of the kingdom, he gulped at the chill of the wind. He had not been outside of the city walls of the Lodari kingdom since he was a young boy. He looked around in awe at the terrible fate that had become of the Roamer people. Beyond the rubble of the crumbling dwellings that housed thousands of their population, a pungent smell of death wafted undoubtedly through the stale air. Amongst the perimeter of trees that touched the outskirts of their territory, small tribes of hunters had resorted to eating the corpse of the zombies that they had fought off. He saw that the sickness-stricken people had turned rabid from feasting on the undead. He watched the flames of the campfires flicker from their faces as a tear ran down his cheek. Joshua rose his head with a sense of fate, heeding a call of duty. His heart sank in pride as he followed his destiny into the trees. Chapter 5. Through the Blizzard. Joshua walked through a blinding blizzard as he ventured deep into the forest. He fell to the weight of the snow beneath his feet. He flipped over quickly as a rapid stomping approached from behind him. As he turned around, a zombie leapt for his neck. He kicked it off of him, scrambling to dig his lantern from the snow. As the zombie charged him, he stood up quickly and swung the lantern in fright. The darkness of night surrounded him as the lantern broke, shattering as it impacted the zombie. Joshua fell to the ground, calling for his brother. "James!" Suddenly a hand snatched him by the collar. Chapter 6: The Darkest of Secrets. As Josh was dragged through the bone-chilling snow, his heart beat rapidly. Still shaded in the pitch-black night, accompanied only by the blistering cold wind that snapped the branches of the dying trees with its wrath. The overwhelming pain submersed him. Suddenly, Joshua passed out. Joshua woke under the flame of an altar. He looked around to find himself deep within the forest, surrounded by the grueling of zombies. He shook in fright as he watched them gather around to inspect him, their flesh rotting, their mouths drooling. They worshipped around him with a ghoulish chant. As their chant became louder, a dark presence appeared above him.
"Leave these people,"
the dark spirit spoke.
"They are damned, and so are you."
"No!" Joshua cried out as he was devoured by the cursed people.
"Serve your God,"
the voice whispered to him as Joshua arose. He looked down at his new zombie body in disgust. His eyes glowed with rage as his mind became blank. Joshua had lost control. Part 3: Let There Be Light. Chapter 7: Stirring Their Hearts. After word spread of the undead within the forest, the roamers became desperate for shelter within the walls of Lodari. While the rising threat of the zombies consumed them slowly, the ruling family denied to help the roamers. The people of the kingdom began to resent their king. While the Lodari people conspired against the king, the mobs of roamers rallied in discontent outside the walls of the kingdom that had disdained them. Under the plight of a relentless assault of undead, led now by Joshua, the roamer people fell to the overwhelming force of the never-ending attack. Joshua, now a puppet of the dark god, raised the slayed roamer people into new undead soldiers. As Joshua and his army of undead stormed the gates of the city, they easily defeated the Royal army and rose them in undeath as well. The civilians watched in dread as the army of countless undead rattled through the city of Lodari and overthrew the castle. Chapter 8: Succeeding the King. As the evil gods' new commander Joshua and his troop of demonic zombies swarmed the castle floors, they reveled to the deathly cry of the peasants and servants that they consumed. A soul-shattering plea for mercy roared from a chamber beneath them. An undeniable force compelled Joshua to follow down the castle walls and deep into the chambers of the dungeons within the citadel. As he swung open the heavy doors to the secret room that housed the cries, Joshua shook off the spell that had overtaken him with a shocking awakening. "James!" he cried out, rushing for his brother, who was shackled to the wall. A group of robed men stopped him. As the men held him back, another robed man in a black mask approached him. "Bow before your king, peasant," one of them said, throwing him to his knees. The king placed a sword across Joshua's shoulder. "Josh?" James asked in guilt, seeing the rotting death on his brother's face. "Joshua, these people are cannibals," he cried. "You must stop them." Feeling the king's cold sword settling on his shoulder, Joshua looked up at his brother in shame. "Stop me?" the king laughed. "Ha ha! You and what army?" The king rose his sword and swung it down at Joshua. Suddenly, the horde of undead swarmed the room. Joshua leapt for the king in a rage, tackling him to the ground, disarming him with a sword. The zombies overran the king's men with overwhelming force. Joshua wrestled the king for the sword. As they struggled for control of the weapon, Joshua choked the king with a deathly grip and stripped the blade from his grasp. "The kingdom shall fall," Joshua declared as he drove the sword deep into the king's chest with all of his might. Outside, the people rejoiced as the dark clouds dissipated, revealing the sun for the first time in thousands of years. The powerful rays of the sun blessed the people and healed the forsaken undead, reverting them back into humans. The end. You have been listening to Remorseless Winter. Fairytales Forever, Book 4, written by Andboo. Narrated by Hazelton.